Welcome to the first hand review session that's going on this YouTube channel. This is Odogster Poker, and today I only have two hands that I'm going to be going over. This happened 2 nights ago, so on the 15th, and basically it was kind of a weird setup for the whole game. It was a home game, and the buy-in was $25, but the blinds were 25.50 cents. So to start with, everyone's only 50 big blinds effective. And that's the setup for this hand, where big blind right here is going to be 50 big blinds effective, and they're going to be the villain in this hand. So we have an under the gun raise, $2, and we have two people flat this raise. Gets to me, ace king, going to be a very clear 3-bet here. And you don't want to just 3-exit here because of these two callers, so we're going to add $2 for each person that calls after the initial raiser, so that's why I make it 10 here. And then cutoff actually jams. They're a short stack, so they're all in now, which kind of makes this interesting because, as we see, the big blind actually calls this open, and all these people fold. So ignore middle position; they're not actually in this hand. So going into the flop, there's 33 in the middle, but the SPR for big blind is about 0.5. I decide to c-bet. You tend to want to c-bet almost every flop when you're the 3-better. And it's like low cards like these. If it was some middling cards, then maybe you can check some hands. But we bet 7.5, and big blind jams all in for 15. Once you bet more than a third of your stack and you're going to ever have a decent amount of equity, you're basically pot committing yourself. So even against an overpair, we're likely to have 6 outs here. So we call, and big blind shows pocket tens, cut off mucks. So yeah, we got it in pretty bad on the flop, but that's kind of just the nature of short stack poker, where you're going to have so much in the middle compared to your stack where you kind of have to, call down pretty light. So I don't know, maybe the only thing you can change here is just not betting the flop and checking, because any bet that you do there is going to pot commit you. And then maybe you can just get more information, see where you're at on the turn. And in this case, didn't really work out. But that's kind of just the nature of short stack poker, which is you're going to be all in with a lot weaker of hands than you would be if you were deeper. Now, the setup for this hand is that the game had been going on for a long time by this point. We started around 9:30, and this hand happens around 1:45 a.m. But anyways, after that ace-king hand, I only had about $5 left in my stack, so I ended up just jamming and getting stacked. And I have to wait like 30, 40 minutes just sitting out before I can sit back down again. And eventually, I do sit down, and the host lets me buy in for 100 big blinds, so $50, which was nice because then I could actually play deeper, and a lot of the people by then had over $50 in their stack anyways. But by this point in the night, a lot of people have left, so we're only 6-handed, and I look down at aces on the small blind. Now, the hand immediately before this, I actually was dealt aces as well, and I got it all in on the flop versus kings. And yeah, that was just very lucky for me. I just also held, so I went from having about 60 in my stack to having over 100. So for this hand, I cover everyone who plays. So anyways, getting into this hand, under the gun opens for $1.50, and the cutoff actually min raises $3. Folds to me, and this is going to obviously be a 3-bet. So the question is, how big do we go? And I'd say maybe 12 to 13 is good. You can just 4x this raise when you're out of position. And I only go $9. So part of the reason was I was a little bit confused because I looked down at aces twice in a row. And I say out loud, I'm like, what is this? After I look at my hand. And they're like, that's your hand. And I'm like, oh, sorry. I thought we were done playing. Because this was actually the last hand I ended up playing. So I initially thought that my hand hadn't gotten mucked from the last one. But no, I just actually got dealt aces twice in a row. And we see cutoff actually calls here. Now, looking at cutoff's range, they're going to have a lot of these Broadway cards and Also, maybe some suited connectors, some pocket pairs. So we can just go ahead and lead out here, knowing that, especially something about cutoff was that they had been making some wild plays. And I actually hadn't really gotten a chance to really play any big pots against any of the wilder players there. So I just lead out and I get snap called by cutoff. And cutoff even says, he says, I'm drawing, which I don't know how to really interpret that. Whether that means they have king queen for an open ender, or maybe they just have a gut shot. They have, I don't even know, even a low pocket pair. But when they say they're drawing, I'm actually inclined to believe them. Just because, he earlier in the night had said, "Oh, I just hit my pair on the turn," for example, and he actually did just hit a pair. So because of that, I'm actually kind of factoring that whole I'm drawing into how I proceed in this hand. And this hand goes by very quickly up until this point. So I bet very quickly $11 on the flop, and I very quickly bet $25 here as well. And I get snapped off once again. The thing is, when your opponent snaps you off, they're usually going to have a draw. And in this case, cutoff actually said that they had a draw. So, the story's really making sense up until this point. And the river's a queen, and it does actually complete some draws. So king 9 gets there, ace king gets there. I'm not really expecting cutoff to have ace king all that often. I would probably expect him to 5-bet pre. But we are 200 big blinds deep here, so it's hard to say that they're never going to have ace king here. So it's a bit of a worrying river, but I mean, we do block ace king, obviously, so I can kind of discount that. But I decided to check it over mainly to kind of disguise my hand strength, but also just to maybe try and bluff catch. And cutoff actually just ends up jamming here, all in for $55 into 147. And I actually unironically start feeling a little bit nauseous looking at this because I had literally just gotten this $100 stack after being down the entire night. So I ask how much is it? Get a count, it's 55. And I actually ask for a count of the pot and I hear it's 92. And it doesn't really make sense because it's actually 147 after you account for this bet right here. So I thought I was actually getting a worse price than I was, but I just thought, I don't know. I think cutoff's made some wild plays, maybe some overvaluing of their hands. So I just end up calling, and cutoff shows actually ace queen. So it's a very fortunate river for me, considering the fact that I called, because cutoff does really improve here. And they were in fact drawing to either hit an ace, a queen, or a king. So it's a good thing it wasn't a king, because I probably would have paid that off as well. But yeah, when you have this strong of a hand, and you're really discounting the chance of your opponent having two pair because of all of the things that have happened up till that point in the hand, you can kind of just call off pretty light here. And it's not like cutoff overbet either, so I think this was just a very good hand to call down with. I don't know if I would have really changed anything in the hand. You can maybe just argue leading out all in on the river. But the thing is, if your opponent has a missed draw, then they might end up just going all in after you check to them to bluff at it, and then you can just call down as a bluff catch. So, yeah, nothing too crazy this session. Just wanted to go over two quick hands.